Hey, what's up, people? What's up? This is impromptu reaction. We normally don't even cover The Walking Dead, at least not on this level with the little audio discussion podcast, whatever you want to call it. But we had to say something. We had to talk about it. This is a milestone for the franchise, at least for the TV franchise. Michonne's quote unquote final episode, and that's why we're talking about it. I am your host for this one, Adam Vale, Associate Editor over at the Koalition. I'm here with Sister Dana because I can never pronounce her last name. She's the Entertainment Editor over here at the Coalition. What's up?
Hello, everybody. Excited for this impromptu conversation.
Cool, cool. And I'm here with the big boss, Richard Bailey Jr., Chief Editor over at the Coalition.
Yes, what's up, listeners and viewers?
Yeah, there you go. All right, so some people may be surprised. They're like, hey, what's going on? Not just for what we're doing, but for the fact that we know about this and it's on the network. The AMC, if you get the AMC Premium, and maybe you didn't even know they had it because they don't really do a good job promoting that. But one of the perks that you get with that service is that you get to watch Walking Dead Friday nights as opposed to a Sunday night. So you get it a few days early. And, I've had it for a while, so I get to watch these episodes early. And I'm like, oh, okay, whatever. But man, this one pissed me off. This one really pissed me off. And I was like, you know what? We got to talk about it. We got to talk about it because this is. Oh man! All right, so we've all seen it. We all watched this, and for those who don't know, and they're like this, there are spoilers. So if you're not sure about it, it's like, oh, you're just gonna preview. No, we're gonna spoil this shit. And so I'm gonna start off real quick. For those who watched the last episode, then you already know that there was really no discussion of what's going on with Michonne. As we all know, that we should know, especially if you're listening to this and you're a fan of the show, you know she's leaving the show, right? She's done. She's going to Hollywood, if there is a Hollywood after what we're going through right now. But she's off to do bigger, better things. More power to her. A lot of characters have done this. A lot of actors, I should say. So this is no surprise. But what is a surprise is that the season's not over. And they were like, oh, no, she's leaving, in episode 13. That's it. So I was like, oh, okay. So we're all looking forward to this to see how they go about doing it. We saw what happened with
Mhm.
Rick. And it was sort of, I consider, a botch, the whole thing of the bridge blowing up, no body found. Next, he's in a
No.
helicopter. It's like, all right, whatever. No one's out looking for him, and because in typical fashion, they would do that, and that sort of links to this episode, because in this episode, we see what's going on with Michonne. If you recall, she left with Irving, which was the guy who was like, hey. I live on a remote island with my family. We have weapons and blah, blah, blah. And Michonne was like, all right, I'll go with you to get these weapons. So now we go back to that. So this is a disconnect from the past few episodes that we've seen since we've returned from break. So they get to the island, and it turns out that Irving is a prick and a liar, which we should have assumed. This is the Walking Dead universe. No one is genuine here, and she's surprised by it. And they clear out a building because he was like, "Well, my family was in this building, and I don't have the courage to do the whole kill zombie thing. You're a badass with the sword." She's like, "No problem, let's go in." She clears the path. Next, she goes into a room. Boom, closes up the door, locks her in the room, walks away, and this is where I start flipping out because for one, next to her cell is another cell with three other people that are there. They were other doctors that worked on the facility. I think they even joked one of them was a cleaner. But the fact that they even joked about some shit like that, they were all like, "Oh yeah, we're always in here. Don't scream. It gets him mad," and stuff like. All nonchalant. If you're left in a room for days, I'm assuming days had passed because it looked like it was a travel before. He wasn't like, "Oh yeah, I'm a few blocks away. We get on a boat and we're on my island." It was a troop. And if they get to travel over that, and these people have been locked in there, didn't see anything about food, there's no one else there, there's no bathroom, it's a cell. They must be pissing and shitting in that cell. It must be a mess. But then they're just acting like, oh, well, we've just been locked in here for a little while. He'll calm down. Who knows when we're going to get out? There's no point in escaping. They're just relaxed with this. I mean, was I the only one? Did you guys get anything out of that scene? That scene really pissed me off. Dana?
No. I just felt that it was kind of done rather lazily, and I expected more from it, but we never really got there at all, and it was just very baffling to me.
Yeah, it just didn't feel right. It didn't feel natural. If a scene like that comes up, the first thing I think of is that we're going to hear people almost like in a hostile situation, like the old movie Hostel, where they're like screaming and they're like, "Oh my god, I don't believe," it's like a hungry or like, "How did he find you? Where did he go? We've been in here for days." Do something. It's like, "Do you have any food? Is a window? Were you alone?" They didn't even ask, "Were you with a group? Are there other people? Or it was just you two? Where were you?" What? Nothing. It's like, really pissed me off. Really. What about you, Rich? What did you get from that?
Well, yeah, I also didn't understand that. Um, but again, I'm not really surprised because it feels to me like they knew that this was a very important episode, and just as an overall whole, knowing that this is her final episode, I think there's a lot of things that fell short uh of it being a good episode. So yeah, you can add on to that. Yes, the people should have been, more up in arms of the fact that they were hostages, and they were very nonchalant. Now, I will say, later on in the episode, they were adamant about, well, when they tried to kill Virgil, um, Michonne stopped them. So, but I'm gonna let you get to that part. But yeah, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, because that we'll get to that one. Because the next part of this, and I sort of jumped one little part, but it's not even that important. Because I think we all assumed his family was dead, right? We knew the family. Once they were like, "Oh, we're gonna go in there and clear things out." And there's all these walkers. Yeah, I'm pretty sure the family are dead. And sure enough, they were. They were zombies, but they were hanging and they were dead. And he goes and he puts a shoe on. I think that was his wife's foot, right? And but we knew that was going to be the case. There's no way someone was going to be surviving, especially with all the walkers that were in that facility, that building there. So back to now, after that point, we fast forward and we're back to what we were just discussing, the cells. Then when she gets poisoned and she starts having these hallucinations, but it's more of like a what if. So you get an early flashback of when we first were introduced to Michonne in the early seasons, when she goes to save Andrea from the walkers, and she has her, what was it? It was some people call it pet walkers, but she's not really petting them. These are her like cleansers, because they have no arms and no jaw, but they have the stench. So the idea is that the walkers won't attack because they just smell their own. But she, instead of saving her, from what we know, she walks away. And everything is just taking the alternate path. So there's another scene where she's on the road and she's waving, and you see that it's Daryl flying by in the car because he gets out for a moment. And I think that's probably an earlier scene where he was with his brother Marv during an early part. And he just ignored her and just keeps going. And then she fights with some walkers, and eventually she comes across Negan. And Negan and one of his members throws her an apple. This whole what if, which I also didn't get, because I'm like, how would this even... No. If anything, you could maybe throw in a twist and make it seem like, hey, maybe there was more to her backstory before meeting Rick. Maybe she was at some point part of the Saviors, because that's what they were going with this in this alternate reality, is that they picked her, that Negan adopts her into the system, and that she was there when they did the big execution. We all know that infamous scene where when they're doing the Lucille headshots, and that apparently she was the one that did the shots. It wasn't even Negan. Negan passed it back to her and said, "Hey, you do it." And talks about how there was that one raid when Rick and friends and they raided that one facility, and they attacked some of the Saviors at night. Remember that scene? And they killed some, and then she brings that up. And I always thought that was another thing that bothered me, even when they kept saying that Negan was bad. It's like, yeah, he was a little bit of a prick. He slept with people's wives, the whole thing. But he still looked out for everybody. And that was kind of low for Rick's crew to go in there and then just kill these people while they're sleeping. Well, what if they had nothing to do with it? What if they don't really know what's going on? I mean, there's a large group of them. Some, as we learned later on in the seasons and in the episodes, it said they just work there. They're there. Remember, there was a doctor, there was other people. They just work there. They don't go out into the field. They don't know what Negan's doing outside of that factory that they all live in. So to just go and randomly kill. And then what if there were some kids sleeping? What if there's a teenager kid or something? He's sleeping or whatever, and then he gets murdered. For what? because of some other shit that he didn't even know anything about. I don't know. I'm going on a rant. But anyway, the whole point was they were showing an alternate version of that she was there, that she knew what's going on, and this was retribution. Right? And that's sort of what Negan had said this was. He was like, hey, you killed some of my own, I'm going to kill some of your own. Eye for an eye type of shit. That's how it works, right? So I don't understand why they had to throw that at us, especially at this point in her story, because I didn't get anything from that. It didn't do anything for me unless it was an actual real part of her backstory that we didn't know and that she never discussed. But we know that's BS because of all the time she spent with Negan in the prison and stuff. He could have easily spilled it out. You want me to tell them that you were part of my group too at one point and left? But whatever. I don't know. What did you get from that, Dana?
I just overall kind of felt that I found it to be really cheap. If you're going to use that as a plot device and to show the what if kind of alternative version, then they should have at least made it, as you said, again, interesting and showed us something that we didn't already know or something that we would care about. And I just felt that they just kind of dropped the ball and just really didn't give that much of an effort into it, so that when we get to reality that we're actually in today, there's no connection to it. For me, I just didn't feel that at all. And it was just a waste.
Yeah. What about you, Rich?
Well, I think the problem is that with a show like The Walking Dead, that has been on for way too long, in my personal opinion, they have to try and think of other ways to, I guess, end a character story. We saw what happened with Tyrese and Sasha, how their stories ended, and how those episodes were very impactful for those characters. So when you go on to Michonne, I mean, I don't necessarily agree with the approach that they took, but I will say that I don't really know which other direction they could have taken this.
Yeah. Well,
it's not to have the what if plot device.
I mean,
well, yeah.
Well, all right. So I'll just mention it now because I think not everybody knows, but I've read the entire franchise series of the comics all the way to the last episode of last year, and it's all done. So I'll just put some little insight when it comes to how they went about it with this. Is that Michonne makes it. She made it all the way through the entire story, even to the post. So she's good. So it's very tricky to see how they were going to go about this. Even when I heard that she was leaving the show, it's like, all right, well, you just introduced her with another child, right? She had the love child with Rick. And then, of course, they have their current daughter. So how are you going to just remove her without, especially when she has kids? And I thought it was going to get heavy on that whole point. But instead, they fill up this whole part of a good chunk of this episode with these weird flashbacks and the drugging. And then, Irving trying to say, oh, I felt your pain. You need to release your pain. You need to, come on now. What are you talking about? It's this pointless dialogue. Because this has nothing to do to progress the story. This story is heavy. She is a key part of the Walking Dead universe. We need something that will show the progression of not just the character or the connecting characters, but just the overall show. I just didn't understand this, and that even eventually, because I guess now we can get to the point where he opens up the door, she gets out, she attacks him, they take control, she frees the other ones, the other three. And like you said, they get to that point, they don't want him. They want to kill him. And then she's like, no, you'll have to live with that on your conscience. And, we'll just let him be. Let him survive in pity and the whole thing. And there was supposedly one boat. Here's the funny thing. They were like, oh, the one boat that they were on, it was on fire, right? He had set on fire. But then they were like, no, there's another boat. That was a much better boat that they found. That boat was hooked up. That was like a big-ass fishing boat. I'm like, whoa. Yeah, why didn't he ever take that boat? That was an awesome-sized boat. I mean, they had cabins and everything. Remember, later on in that episode, she said, oh, not to bag now, I'm jumping the gun because I almost forgot one key part that actually connects some kind of relevance to the actual story of all this. And that's when she finds the walkie-talkies and stuff, the things that Rick had. Right? And then it's like, how did you get this? Where did you get this? And all that stuff. So then it's like, oh, wait, now they're going to have some connection. They're going to bring some connection. But No connection, at least none provided, because he was like, I don't know, we just have it, things come across, I don't know. And it's just, it pissed me off. But it still worked. So she gets on and she gets to talk to her daughter, and then her son gets on, and then she tells her daughter that she's like, hey, I think I know where daddy is, that type of deal. I'm just paraphrasing. And she was like, oh, well, then don't come back. We're okay. We got rid of Alpha. Alpha's gone. No more threat. So if you can go find him, maybe he needs your help more than we need you here. So go ahead. And she's like, yeah, all right. And she's going to do it. I mean, it's just, I mean, this is very kung fu. Like, you're going to walk off into nowhere land. You don't know where to go. There's no trail. It's not like she found a map, come find me here or something. It just made no sense. That and I get it. I was like, all right, well, this is it. This is how she's just going to be wandering now. This is the route they decide to go, and so she's gonna go. And Judith, I didn't even mention the doors yet. Judith, she's just gonna go and tell, the rest of the team that, hey, well, Mom called. She was gonna come back, but she found some stuff. She thinks she can find Dad, so I told her, hey, just go and find Dad. And Daryl, you're in charge. You're running the show now, just so you know. It's going to be interesting to see how that pans out. But what did you get from that, Rich, when she had that conversation with Judith?
All right, so let me. I'm going to respond to that, but let me backtrack with a comment real quick about you was talking about all this stuff with Michonne. If I was writing this show, and I was talking about having the character have some type of arc, when the episode first started, it started with that flashback to, her not saving Andrea.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that when people watch this episode from the very beginning, they're going to be confused. Obviously, that I feel was the same scene that we saw later, but that was just a quick little preview of what to expect. So if I was writing this show, I would have had Michonne be a character that is always hesitant to actually work with people, period. Because then when you get to the end of the episode and you see that she's willing to help these other people, that would have been great. Because now you're showing the character comes full circle, and all of a sudden now she wants to help people. Mm-hmm. And I feel that they lost their way in trying to explain what was going on with the character. So now to go back to what you said, to answer your question about the whole conversation with Judith, AMC does a very good job of trying to hype up stuff, because every interview that they had the actress in, they kept saying it's such a heartbreaking story. And that's why I thought when she had that conversation with Judith, I thought, okay, when Judith was old enough to say, you should try and go find Rick, you should try and go find my dad. That was, at that point, that's what I thought, okay, so she doesn't make it back for that reason. And I was fine with that. But as you will get into later, that is not what happened at the end of the episode. So I did not like that whatsoever. Because if they were going to end it off like that, and then you have her venturing off into wherever, trying to find Rick, okay, that's good. But I don't know what's going on with that movie with Rick. So
that's what I think. That's why everything ended up being as open-ended and lazy as it was.
No, we'll get to that. So, but what did you think of that conversation? Did they bring out? Because I think what they were going for was that tug on the heartstrings moment. It's like, oh, a mother talking to a daughter. She's getting emotional. She's crying, and Judith. But it just didn't do it for me. I didn't feel that. I'm like, am I supposed to feel sad? I felt sad in other episodes. There's some that really got me, but this one, I'm like, come on now. No little kid at that point, I don't care how war-torn or how hardened they are going to say, all right, mommy, just go look for him, wander around. No, they're going to be like, well, just come home and we'll figure something out. They're going to want mom home. And again, they did not discuss the amount of time that has passed. We don't know how long she's been out there. I'm assuming a few days. I can't imagine it took weeks to travel to this island. But still, come on now. They just went through a horrific attack. She had to kill the Judith. Remember the guy who was watching over them? She was freaked out because he got bitten. I mean, she should be traumatized and be like, things are hard, but we're okay. Alpha's dead. Everything is cool here, mommy. Go do you. Go get daddy. Come on now. But whatever. That was the approach and the route they chose. Whatever.
It was just sad because we know that what they can do when they want to pull on their heartstrings.
Oh, yeah.
Even little tiny moments where I forgot which episode, but maybe last season or so, where Michonne had to kill the kids.
Yeah. That was tough.
That
was tough.
And
when Carl died, that was also tough.
That was tough. Mm-hmm. And there are these little small moments where they know what they're doing. They know how to put in the right emotion. But this one really felt flat. And it just kind of felt like AMC was kind of mad that she was leaving. So they gave her this lame.
Yeah. See, now that's the tricky part. I mean, if I was creating a show like this and I was going based off of the comics and I'm following the comics, I mean the showrunners, because they take their liberties here and there, but majority of this, and I'll get to it when we get to the ending of how the comic route goes compared to this, I would say, well, if we do this, there's certain key characters that absolutely must stay on this show. They have to commit. I know that sounds crazy because people are like, well, things come up in life. Yes, I get that. But, man, you have to give us a good amount of time and we have to really write you off because you are a key. Michonne is a key character. Rick, key character. Carl, key character. Andrea,
hold on.
For the longest time, key character in the comics. They killed her off real quick. These are the...
Well, hold on a second. They do have a key character though, Adam.
Don't go with Daryl. Don't go with
Daryl.
See, and I get it. Daryl is fun because he was not part of the comics. He was their what if character. He was the badass. He did a bunch of stuff. But people don't understand that as time went on, he was really playing the Dwight role of the comics, who eventually joined the group. And then they still implemented him in the group. And then they realized, well, we have two of the same character. And then that's when Dwight wound up leaving to Fear the Walking Dead. Because he was that muscle in the comics. All right, what was that, Rich?
Yeah, I just was going to add. I feel that the reason why they made Daryl a focal point in the main character is because they wanted to try and make something different from this show, different from the comics.
Oh yeah, absolutely, and that's
because
fine.
Of the fan popularity, they did not intend.
Well, yeah, that for sure, absolutely, yes, the popularity. Yeah, you're 100% right about that.
Yeah. All right, so then toward the end, right, because that was most, like I said, most of this episode was all the craziness with the flashbacks and throwing a lot of that in, which really doesn't progress the story. It didn't progress it. That's what we needed to know. So, yeah, so then at the end, and now we see why she had, aka the pet walkers, that flashback, because she decides to revert back to that. So now she has 2 more pet walkers, and she's wandering off to who knows where, right? Because she doesn't have a map. She's just looking, and she comes across these 2 people, and one of them is injured. Wait, is it 2 or 3? I don't recall.
It's 2.
It was 2, right? One of them was definitely injured, and I saw a lot of chatter online, people saying he was a known actor, and that why would they put him in such a bit role? He must play a major part later on. Maybe.
Well, he is.
But, yeah.
No.
So the point is, he's hurt. The other one's like, oh no, they see her. She looks all crazy. She's got the hood on. She looks like the Michonne of old. And then we get that flashback of Rick where she was standing at the gates when she first appeared. And she didn't really say anything. But then Rick saw her. And what I gathered from that was she recalls of when Rick took a chance on her to let her into the group, not knowing much. And just helping. And now she felt, well, this is her chance again to help. Which also didn't really make sense because you helped Andrea like this, so this isn't too foreign to you. What, you were just going to walk away? That was never in her nature from what we've always known. She's always been a helper,
Yep.
That alternate reality was not reality. So we always known her as the helper, as the sword-swinging badass that she is. So if anybody saw this scene was like, oh shit, she's going to walk away, then you clearly have never watched this shit. Because there's no way she was going to walk away. So there was no what if. Oh no, is this the new Michonne? No new Michonne. She already cleared that shit up. That was not the path she took, and that's not the path she's going to take. So of course she kills the 2 pets that she has, and she says, all right, I'm going to help. And this is where I flipped out again. because then now she helps them, and they're walking off to their group, and then they do the far, drone shot, and they show a caravan, a bunch of people, horses, carriages, the whole thing. So I guess that's the group. So that could be a completely different group, because that is not the Commonwealth group. And this is where I'm going to spew into this real quick, because of people that don't know. This is a lot of spoilers. If you don't want any more spoilers, if you're like, yo, this fucking guy's talking too much shit, he's going way too up, then stop now. 5 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Boom. Done. In the comic, because we're toward the end of the comic. We're very close to the end of the comic regarding the show. Eugene meets up with his contact. Well, wants to go meet up with his contact. She is from the Commonwealth. He doesn't. Well, Michonne is there. This is again in the comics. Says, hey, you're not going alone. I'm going to go with you. We don't know what to expect. And she takes another person, another right hand. Forgot the character's name, but they all go. Eventually, they come across a female character, Princess. They recruit her into the group. Very colorful, interesting character. She becomes part of the group. They get to the Commonwealth. While they're at the Commonwealth, it's really nice. Everything seems cool. There's like 10 to 15,000 people there. There's restaurants. There's stores. There's a movie theater. They have a football team. There's a stadium. They have police. They have military. I mean, it's a world. Everything is like a rebuilt civilization. And there's a bulletin board that has a bunch of pictures of like people missing loved ones and this and that. And I love you and miss you. And she sees a picture of herself. And it says, I miss you, Mom. It's from her daughter. She finds out that her daughter, who she thought was dead, because she had 2 of them, she finds out is alive, and she's working in a bakery. So she goes there, boom, they connect. That's it. She decides she's going to stay there. I don't need to go. There's a lot of spoilers later, but just for the sake and what I'm getting to with this show, she ends up staying there. A lot of shit happens in Commonwealth, but she's there. That's it. And she finds her daughter. There's a happy ending from Michonne. And that's not going to happen here. Now, then again, in the comics, Judith never happened. Mom died with her in the belly. Walkers ate them both. Done. Michonne and Rick never happened. Not a love affair. It was Andrea. Andrea made it almost toward the end. Like 2 seasons back, then she wound up dying, and that was even a sad piece, because everybody paid. She got bit, and everybody would go and do a little tribute while she was in the room. And there was one scene, in fact, where she turned and she was chained to the bed, and Rick was so heartbroken that he even laid down next to the zombie body, ready, pretty much gonna allow Andrew just to bite him, just because he couldn't imagine living without her. Really sad shit. But Andrew was way gone, and then they went with the route with Michonne. That's fine, But then now they just kill it off this way, and this is why I'm saying that I think that this is more pointing toward the movie aspect of what they plan to do with Rick. Because then we'll probably find out more of what's that whole caravan, the fact that she did not get killed off the show, that leaves that door open. I could see her showing up either in the movie with Rick or just showing up toward the end if they do decide to go the route of the comic with the Commonwealth, and sort of like what I said, where she had a happy ending with the daughter. Who knows? When Eugene eventually does meet up with his contact, because he was given the okay, but it looks like he's going to go by himself. You remember 2 episodes back when he was talking to Carol, and she was like, just go do it. If you feel you have to do it, do it. Life is short, just do it. So it looks like he's going to go, and who knows, maybe when he gets over there and he's looking around, he sees a familiar face. And who is it? It's going to be Michonne, and she's there with her daughter. Because in this, remember, her daughter is still dead. That's still part of this story, that she had a kid. And maybe they have that reconnect, but still that doesn't make sense, because then it's like, wouldn't you go back for Judith and your other son? I keep blanking on his name because he's not really part of it. But
Rick Jr.
It was Rick Jr. I thought that was a nickname they gave him.
RJ.
There you go. There you go. Yeah. Rick Jr. RJ makes sense. So wouldn't you go back? So they can't really go to that. If they do, people are gonna flip out. So her whole story arc and everything that happens all points to this movie thing whenever that happens. But it was frustrating. I didn't like that ending. I didn't like that approach. Whether if they wanted her to just wander off, go ahead. Don't show the group, though. Once you show a group like that, you're planting that seed that's like, oh, she's going to be with another group. She's going to find help. She's going to find this. She'll eventually come back and bring everybody else. You know what I mean? They teased everybody as if this was the end for her. And the point is, it's not. What about you, Dana? What did you think of this ending?
Whoa.
There you go.
I don't know. Just when you have something in your mind already, and then when you actually see what they're going to do in reality, and it doesn't match up, and it's just very disappointing because you knew that it could have went better. That is my whole feeling about the ending. I did not like it at all. Um, I don't like that Michonne is now basically a wanderer for Rick, and I felt that the ending that you gave that's about the comic version,
Yeah.
even if you stray a little bit from it, that the foundation was there for it to be a bit solid.
Yeah. It gets so crazy. I mean, I didn't even bring up the fact that she becomes a lawyer again. At the Commonwealth. Yeah, because they respect the jobs that you had previous before the collapse of society. So if you were a lawyer then, you're a lawyer now. If you were a cook then, you're a cook now. That's a whole other thing that it leads to all kinds of other shit. But just for the sake of the story of Michonne, I just want to point out she does have a happy ending and she finds her daughter. But all right, keep going.
It has a happy ending, and she seems to she's able to find a piece of herself, and it also seems that she is at peace.
Yeah. Yep.
As opposed to what we have now.
Yep. And that was the shit that bothered me. It's that you want, and then people, I know people are going to argue, like, well, how else would they going to end this? And it's like, but you can't do this where she had before, the main reason why she was all messed up in the head was because she lost her family. And she had that sword from when she used to take lessons and it was a trip or something like that. Remember, it was hanging up in the living room. And that became who she is. She became this badass, because she already lost everything. Here it is. I can't imagine somebody who already lost everything, then losing it again by saying, all right, I'm going to leave how old is RJ? Maybe 2, right? 2 or 3. I'm going to leave him and I'm going to leave Judith with Daryl? Who else is taking? I mean, who else? Are you kidding me? That's unbelievable. That's the shit. It's just especially in that period and with the situations going on. That is the last thing anyone would do, especially a mother. So they could have done something else. They could have found another way, whether she has no way of contacting her, whether she gets on this boat and they pull a Gilligan's Island and it's a storm, and then they're washed up and have no clue where they are. They could have done something else. Anything else probably would have been believable, at least toward the story, than her just having this conversation with Judith and Judith saying, don't come back, mommy. We're good.
Which doesn't seem plausible.
No.
If you ask any child at all.
Exactly. Especially in that situation. Especially after all this craziness. Everything got pretty much burnt to the ground. They had this massive battle. Judith doesn't mention any of that. So she's that mature that she can just say, oh, how's everything going? Oh, everything is good. Yeah, we killed Alpha, but yeah, everything is cool now. No, she's not. No child. They're going to be freaking out. Like, Mom, oh my, I haven't talked to you so long. You wouldn't believe what happened. A bunch of us died. We got attacked by the Whispers. Then Negan, the one that you didn't like and didn't trust, he chopped off her head. Yeah, it was crazy. We have it hanging up in the park right now, though. It's funny. But, yeah, when are you coming home? You know what I mean? It's like, no, none of that. Whatever. Rich, what did you think of this ending?
Very disappointing. I got thrown off for a second there. It was disappointing all around. I kind of feel like at the end, now you have to, why introduce this whole thing of her trying to get closer to finding out what happened to Rick if it does not happen? I feel like that has to happen now. Whenever this movie actually gets done and it is made, you have to put something in there to address that storyline. Otherwise, it's not going to be a payoff for the fans that are wondering with the new direction that the character is taking. So I would like to hope that they're going to address that later on, but I can't trust AMC to actually do that. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, it was a disappointing conclusion. It could have been done, executed on a hell of a lot better than it was. But
this was not the last episode of the season, right? I don't remember.
Oh no!
I think there's like three more episodes.
No, and to go to the point, the comment that was made earlier about sometimes they are very capable of doing a good job, other times they are not. The episode prior to this one, that had to be, in my opinion, the best episode so far. The
Yeah,
second half
that
of
was
this.
great. That was great. That's another one. That's going to leave a lot of discussion. So it's like, oh wow, Carol had this all planned with Negan. That I didn't see that coming. That explains a lot of why she wanted to venture out the way she did. And it's going to be fun. That was definitely a good episode. And even the one before that, the big brawl that happened.
Yeah.
And that's it. And for those who don't know much, and again, I don't want to keep going into the spoilers with the comics, but that's not over. The Whisper whole thing, it's just beginning. So the whole thing with Alpha stuff does not end any of that story arc. All right. So that's our little thing. We just were talking about this and we were ranting and raving. I was like, you know what? I'm sure there's others that want to know what's going on. And since we're all quarantined all over the United States and all over the world, why not? Let's go ahead. Let's spew this out there just in case you're not sure you're going to watch the episode or you're just anticipating watching it. Go ahead. You can watch it. But if not, just listen to this and get your own opinion on what you think if this was a worthy send-off from Michonne. Because that's the way they hyped it. They hyped it like this was the big send-off. And that's not what I felt from this. I felt like, oh, you're taking a break. You know, this is like a Maggie type send off, and as we know, Maggie's coming back because the show that she was on that wound up getting canceled, and they confirmed the showrunner said she was coming back. They said, "Oh yeah, she's coming back." We don't know if it's a full-time role, part-time role, whatever, but I'm sure that toward the end of this season they'll have her pop up again, so that way they can build up for next season. Because from the way they made it seem, they wrote her off completely because they weren't expecting her back. You know, she did a pilot for that show, and I forgot the name of the show he was on real quick over on Fox, and then it got canceled. So, it happens, you know, that's Hollywood. But at least she didn't live on bad terms. See, people, don't burn bridges. Don't burn bridges. You know, so there you go. And she was a big part of it. You know, and then even in the story arc for the comics, that character Maggie is still alive and plays a major part. Even more so than Michonne. When it comes to the end. So if we were to cross the streams or the universes from the comic to the show, they're very close right now. You know, there may be 25 to 30 episodes, issues, if you want to say comic-wise, apart. So it's very close to the end, and if they decide to end it the way on the same level. And the last spoiler, I promise, last spoiler. Everything for The Walking Dead ends at the Commonwealth. Once they get into the Commonwealth, that's it. That's the end game. And as you know now, with Eugene and the girl, and that seems like, unless they change the girl where she's from. If they say, oh, she's not from the Commonwealth, then that could be the curveball. But if she is at the Commonwealth, when they do the meetup and she says, oh, I'm going to take you, my place called the Commonwealth, just know a light bulb should go up because that's it. That's the end game.
So are you saying by season 12 was probably the last season?
Yes, this could definitely last to season 12. And then this would make sense why they're focusing on doing the spin-off and all the other stuff, because they know this one is running its course. And if they were, and as much as they say they add things and stuff, they do, but they are definitely following the comic. They're definitely following the comic. And there goes that. The comic will be done. And we've seen shows where they'll try to continue without the source material, and it's horrible. And I'm looking at Happy. Those who knew about Happy, that was an awesome comic. It was a one trade, 6 episodes, 6 issues, and then the show was great. And then when season 2 came, it was horrible because they had to make up their own shit, and they weren't following the source material because there were none. That was it. It was one trade and done, one and done. But whatever, I don't think they would go that route. I think they have a bunch of other. We already have Fear the Walking Dead, which is having its own set of issues. Hell, almost all the characters quit. Remember, we lost a lot of people there to the point that they had to start migrating characters like Morgan and Dwight over to save the show. They were like, hey, you want a major role? You know, we'll put you on this one. You'll be the front runner now. You'll be the new Rick. You want to be the new Rick? Yeah, on a different show. There we go. Sorry, Dwight. You should have been the key player here, but we have Daryl. Do you want to continue that role elsewhere? Okay. You know, do the migration. You're going to be over there in Fear the Walking Dead.
Yeah.
And then we got the new one. that's starting whenever that starts now due to
it was supposed to start in April, but
Yeah.
today it's
Yeah.
announced it got pushed back until we don't know when because of the virus that's going around.
It's so crazy. So crazy. Yeah. Well, that's it for us, people. We hope you enjoyed this episode, this impromptu episode, and just go out there. Well, no, don't go out there. Don't go out. But just enjoy whatever you're doing internally. There's tons of media. We got stuff you can watch on TV. You got books. You got everything. I mean, this sucks, but we're gonna get through this.
Read a book.
With this, I mean, for myself, I in New York, just like Dana, lived through 9/11, lived through fucking West Nile virus. So, all this craziness. I mean, we've had a bunch of things hit us, and this is a tough time for the world. But we gotta think positive. We'll make it through this. This isn't the end of days. This isn't it. All right, so everyone have a good weekend and stay safe. Bye.